Hello and welcome to Mama Juice. I am your host, Sandra, and today we are going to be covering a very important topic, and that is self care. It's something that I think a lot of us struggle with, and we have an expert with us today. She's a life coach, and her name is Lindsey. So stay put.
Hold up.
My name is Lindsey. I am a life coach in Arizona here for busy women, and I like to help them turn burnout into balance in 60 days.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And how long have you been doing that for?
I've actually been doing that almost a year now. I did a career change at the beginning of the year. I used to work for a payments firm and I ran the administration team for about 9 years. And it was just, it was no longer fulfilling to me. So it was like it got to the point where I was just overworked and I didn't have the love of it anymore. And I was really looking to find something that was more fulfilling to me and where I would be able to use my experiences and really help other people. So it kind of took me down that path.
So cool. And that's kind of in the realm of what we're talking about today, which is self care.
Correct.
Because, I mean, if you're miserable at a 40-hour-a-week job, like, how well are you taking care of yourself, right?
Right. Exactly. And I think, it's one of the things that a lot of people really kind of put to the wayside is self-care. I think a lot of them initially, they probably think like bubble baths or like doing masks. And it's really, it's so much more than that. It's not just taking care of your, physical health. It's your mental health. It's your emotional health. It's taking the time out of your busy day to really sit and focus on you and not, anything else that is going on in the world. And I think, the key to really kind of reducing stress and really avoiding burnout is that self-care. And I mean, it can be something very simple. And I think a lot of people really struggle with that because they feel like it needs to be something time intensive. And the number one thing I hear when it comes to self-care is people don't have time. Right. And I think for me, like it's a lie. And you have all the time in the world. And I think if people really would, take a step back and look where they're spending their time, they would see that they actually have, an extra 5 minutes. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything crazy to just sit with yourself. I mean, it could be taking a walk. It could be, calling a long lost friend that you haven't spoken to in years. I mean, it could just be calling your mom, calling your brother, sister. It could be very simple things. And I think it's just something that really needs to bring you joy. Right. And I think that's very important. And especially now in this time, a lot of people are definitely forgetting about that because they're so focused on, maybe where they're going to get their next meal, if they're even going to have a job, or, are they going to be able to even leave their house anytime soon? And I think that really, it wears people. And it definitely, it can be hard. And I think if we were to take a step back and even just take a couple of minutes for yourself, I think people would really see a definite change in their mental state.
Definitely. And where do you think that disconnect comes from as far as like people feeling like it has to be some big grand, like go for a massage or a pedicure or something like that, rather than understanding that it's really the simple things that are most important?
I will say, I think, honestly, a lot of social media really plays into it because I think people see the Instagram influencers and they see the fancy pictures, the fancy baths. They're in, the bathrobes, the face masks. And what they don't realize is that those people are actually, they set that up to take those pictures. Like that's not real life. And I think that's a lot of that disconnect comes from where you have so much available to, but I think it's too much of the wrong stuff. Yes. And I think people are not, they don't question it. They see one or two people doing it and they think it's truth. Right. And I think, if people really took the time to question it and say, well, maybe that doesn't work for me. Right. Maybe I need to do something else. And I think because they don't question that, and they think it has to be something super extravagant, and especially for somebody that might not be able to afford the super extravagant, they tend to think that, self-care is not for them because maybe it's only for the elite because they can't afford to do it. And I think I really want to break that mold because it's really important to take care of yourself. And I know it's one of the things I've been working also with my daughter, right? She's 15. So she's coming into that age where, she really is influenced by social media, and you have the friends and the school and everything about that. So we're really focusing on, taking a step back and focusing on that mental aspect and, that your emotional health, and that it's important to, come from a place of kindness, take a moment out for yourself. You don't have to be stuck to your phone.
Well, and I think with, the boom of influencers, it changed consumerism, and people don't realize they're being sold something.
Right.
Whereas you see a commercial, you're being sold something. Right. But when you're scrolling through Instagram and you just see this mom who has the same amount of kids as you, and she's living this calm, luxury looking life via her pictures, and you don't realize that she's selling you something.
Right, exactly. Like, she's selling you that lifestyle. What you're not seeing behind the scenes is, her kids are probably screaming crazy just like yours are. And, you don't see that. And I think what is unfortunate is a lot of times your psyche will start to, play on you. And then you see that and you start to compare yourself to others. And because your life is not like theirs, it's not available to you. And that, your mind is a powerful thing. And especially when it comes to, these type of topics, like, you can really start to get down on yourself because, everybody is a worst case scenario expert. Your mind will absolutely go there. And if you ask it a question and it's inclined to answer whether you like the answer or not. And even if it's true or not, like, it could be completely false, you'll still believe it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when it comes to that with, the social media and the Instagram and everybody taking that into effect, they don't realize, like you said, they're being sold something. There's something there that, you're being sold this lifestyle that you think you have to have, and like meeting that status quo. And that's where a lot of people will end up killing themselves mentally, financially, just because they feel like they have to meet that status quo.
Right. Yeah. The new Keeping Up with the Joneses is
right.
The Joneses are a lot more elite than they used to be,
Right.
It's not just like the newest toaster anymore. Exactly. So what advice would you give to, or what advice do you give to overwhelmed moms who feel like they don't have even that 5 minutes to take a breather?
I think what I like to do, really, one of the things that I really focus on in my program is doing like a time audit and really paying attention to where your time is going, and just carrying a notebook with you and making that, jot down. Like, when I did it, I couldn't believe how much time I was spending on social media.
Oh my
God. It was just
my phone tells me that, and I don't even want to say.
I know. And it's like, I had to make that mental shift for me, because social media is no longer like social media. Like, I have to use, it's a tool. It is a business tool for me. And I have to look at it that way. So then that way I don't find myself endlessly scrolling. Right. But once you do get that time audit and you see where your time is going, make a schedule that works for you. And a lot of people think that making a schedule means you have to, 9 o'clock you do something, 10 o'clock you do something. I can't work that way. Like, I've tried, and by day 5, I crumble.
You're like, but it's 9:05 and I haven't started.
Exactly. So for me, what I like to do is I actually will have kind of like blocks, and I pick a day. So it's like, I kind of brought it for an example. So it's like, I know this one says like beauty routine, but it's just kind of like what I need to do, daily. And I make it very easy, and then I just keep it in my bathroom.
Oh, that's
so that way I see it every day. And like, it's really simple stuff like brush my teeth.
Right. Yeah. And then you can just get like a frame at the dollar store. So it's not even
That's
expensive.
exactly what I did. And I just put like stickers on it, like those
So cute.
crafting stickers for craft books.
Yeah.
And I just, and then I have so many whiteboard markers. So then I just write on it. So if I decide I want to change the day I exfoliate my face, I will, and I could just erase it and change it. So it's like I have one day that is completely for me, which is on Sunday, because that's usually, for me, I find the easiest day that there's not a lot of hustle and bustle going on. And typically what I like to do is spend about like 2 hours in the bathroom, and I like make a bath. I do a fancy like mask, which a lot of this stuff you can totally get at the dollar store.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Or you can even make it yourself.
Yes, I love DIY.
Yes.
Because that in itself is like a project. So it's like, now I get to do a project and relax. That's cool.
Exactly, right? And then like with some of those too, especially if you have kids, you can include the kids in it. Me, like, I like to have my me time. So I'm like, okay, leave me alone, please.
Right. Totally. Yeah. I get that. And how have you seen it affecting moms in your work as far as the lack of self-care?
So with a lack of self-care, with what I actually experience is a lot of moms have overwhelm. They have that mom guilt. They feel that constant pressure and stress of, not only do I have to be perfect, but then I also have like all these things in my day. And especially with moms, you have, an endless list of laundry, cleaning, there's cooking, there's taking care of your kids, bathing your kids. And then you can't forget about yourself in the meantime. And I think what a lot of times what works is I do these archetypes, and what happens is you start to call on a different persona of yourself, right? So say if, you're so sick of cleaning and you don't want to do it anymore, you can just call on, little Susie Homemaker, right? And put yourself like mine in that state, and you get it done, right? And then before you even realize it, you have started. It's like you take the negative stigma out of all that pressure of everything that you have to do. Because I think moms put it in their heads that they have to do absolutely everything every day before they go to sleep.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And it's like, the thing is, I always said this at work, but it kind of also, it applies for your personal life. Your inbox is always full. No matter what, it's going to be there tomorrow. No matter what's not going to be there tomorrow is that time that you didn't have with your kids, and or maybe that you spent worrying about how you were going to make all the cookies for the bake sale tomorrow. Right. You could have made a DIY mask and sat with yourself. I mean, if you like to drink wine, sit and have a cup of wine, 2 or 3.
A whole bottle. Why not?
Sometimes you have a hard day.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what a lot of people need to remember, is to give themselves a break. Yes. And I think with moms, that is the one thing that they struggle with the most, is giving themselves a break, because they have the pressure just to be perfect, to do everything. And then especially when you have like the influencers and you see all of that, and they get that overwhelm and they feel guilty for not being that way for their kids, when what they don't realize is, no, you're there for your kids. Right. Like, you're doing that for your kids. And it's really about changing the narrative. And instead of focusing on that negative, is really putting that positive spin in there. And I think what a lot of people don't realize with that self-care and focusing on that mental aspect of it, over time, it's actually just going to change that way. And you're going to notice that's going to be your first response instead of the second response. And I have this friend, it's really funny. She calls me Positive Polly. Yeah. Because whenever something happens, I'm always like the silver lining finder. So it's like, I never look at the negatives. I'm always like, well, at least, maybe you didn't need to do that then. Or like, look at the money you saved from not doing that. And she's like, can you just stop for a second? And I'm like, no.
Are you by chance a Libra?
I am.
Okay. So am I. And I have a friend who, like, she'd be going through something and she's like, before I even tell you, do not leave me right now. And I'm like, okay. Because it's just natural habit is where I'm like, wow, what if we think about this?
Exactly.
That's so funny and random that I was like, you're Libra.
I totally am. I totally am.
Yeah. So you had a birthday recently.
I did. It was the 21st. So I'm honestly on like the Libra
You're the
Scorpio
cusp.
cusp,
Yeah.
right? So it's like I've got those two traits, but it's also like the worst traits of both. So it's like someone's like, "How are you with making decisions?" I'm like, "Well, sometimes I'm bad, but then like I'll just immediately make the decision." And they're like, "Whoa, where'd that come from?"
Well, you see, the Libra started it and then the Scorpio took over.
Exactly.
That's so funny. So you know what I do with my when I get free time that ends up ruining my free time is I I have an hour, say, maybe everyone went down for a nap and I'm like, I should do this. I should do this. I should do this. And within that hour at now, I've gotten a haircut in my head. I've cleaned the whole house. I went through my kids' clothes and took out what does it. And I'm like, you can't do that in an hour. And now I'm like half an hour in to planning to do 40 hours worth of
Stuff.
I can't talk worth of stuff in 10 minutes.
Right. I do that same thing. It's like I think it's that creative brain that once you start just going, you're like, wait, I could do this, and then I could do this, and then I could do this over here. And what I find is like when I write all that stuff down, I'll pick the most important. And then if I ever come back to the stuff, great. If not, that's great too. Right.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Yeah, that's something I kind of backtracking a little bit. What I do at my corporate job is I call moms after they give birth and I just follow up to see how they're doing, if there's anything they need. Yeah, it's really fun. I love it. And one of the things I ask them is, are you getting rest? And a lot of them are like, no, I haven't had time to rest. I'm not really sleeping. And what I tell them is, well, by rest, I don't necessarily mean sleep because they all think I mean sleep.
Right.
I'm like, put your feet up, read a book, watch your favorite show, just do something that isn't related to your newborn baby and relax.
Right.
And they're like, oh, I can do that. I'm like, you can. But sometimes it's somebody else saying it and then it clicks.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
so I feel like we all need that person like to come in and be like, just put your feet up.
By the way, don't forget about you.
Yes. We live in such a busy world. It's just so hard.
Seriously, right? With everything going like 80 million miles an hour. And it's like, I think as women too, we have that brain that just, you think about 90 different things and then you have everything else going on at the same time. The one thing that I really struggle with that I seriously can't break the habit is like my multitasking habit, where you do like 6 or 7 different tasks all at the same time, right? And you're not really focusing fully on that task. And I have such the hardest time breaking it because when I go to focus on one thing, I'm always like, wait, I got to do that over there. And then I got to do that over there. It's like squirrel.
It's so funny. My mom is a Leo. I'm like, I don't know how I got so into astrology in this moment, but so she helps me a lot with my kids. And she's like, your problem is that you start a task, but then you also go and start other tasks. But why don't you finish that task first? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I can't. I have no idea.
For that.
It just happens. Like, I'm like, oh, I should do this.
Exactly. And you just go and you're like, because you've got that like momentum. So you're just like, okay, I'll just do this and then I'll do this. And it's like, you have so many open-ended things and then you never finish them. And I think like that's also where some of that pressure we put on ourselves because we want to be super mom and we want to take care of everything for our kids. And I think we always forget and put ourselves last because we're so busy putting everybody else first that we forget. And we forget about our well-being. And I know like for me, sometimes like I'll get into these kicks where because I'm at home 98% of the time, like I won't get dressed. and I stay in my gym clothes, or I take a shower and I put sweatpants on.
Yeah.
So, and it's like you don't realize how much that actually kind of messes with your psyche because you're not getting dressed, you're not getting up. So it's like that. It's kind of like when you hunch over and you can tell that something's wrong with somebody because they're showing sadness. And I think when I do that, like I get down, and then I don't feel motivated. And then I got to remember that even though I'm at home, I get dressed for me,
Right.
not anybody else. I do it for me because I want to feel pretty.
Yes,
And
that's so important.
yes, I think, and a lot of women always confuse like feeling pretty with like feeling sexual, and it's just there's so much of it. And I think for women, I want women to look in the mirror and say, I love who I see.
Right. And if that for you means throwing on a little bit of foundation and some lipstick, that's okay.
Exactly.
Because I used to be the type of person who I wore full face makeup every day, accessories before I had kids, obviously.
Yeah.
And I posted a picture of myself and I was like, this is me before kids and this is me now.
Yeah.
And it was a drastic difference. And, it was a goal of mine to start at least combing my hair, like the simple stuff. And there were so many women, and they meant well, and I appreciate that. But they're like, oh, I never wear makeup. You don't need makeup to feel beautiful. That's great, but like for me, I enjoy makeup.
Right.
It's something I like, and I enjoy how I look with it on. And I think we shouldn't be teaching women like, oh, you don't need it. Like that's just. And that's fine if you don't need it, but let people decide for themselves what they need to feel special. And for me, it's just a little bit of makeup, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, I wholeheartedly agree with you. And I think it's really other people pushing their opinions on others. And I think like that's where a lot of society gets that, like, people don't have to think for themselves. And it's like, yeah, you're right. You don't need makeup to feel pretty. But at the same time, like, if I want to get dolled up and have those like big batty eyes because I like the way my eyes sparkle when I take just that one fun selfie, right?
Yes.
And that feeling is like carried with you throughout your whole day. And then it's like when you come back and look at that picture, you're like, ooh, I forgot how good I look.
Right? Exactly. And it's motivating, you're like,
exactly.
I can look like that.
Yes.
And when I first started incorporating makeup back into my routine, I've been a mom for 5 years, and I'm just now starting to. And I do notice like I'm more awake in the morning because I took those couple minutes to throw on some makeup. And I just feel a little bit better. And it's helped me in a small way, but it's helped.
But it's the small things I think that make the biggest differences, right? It's like, it's that little thing that put that extra pep in your step in the morning, and it carries over. It's like it spills over into the rest of your day and everything that you're doing. And I think, people forget that doing simple things like that do add to motivation, to where, you want to do something, you want to feel motivated. And then you start to feel, almost guilty because you don't get up and get dressed the next morning because you miss that feeling. You miss how you feel when you brushed your hair, you put a little bit of mascara on. And I have finally mastered like where I can do my makeup. Like it's natural makeup, so I can still see my natural face, because when I wear heavy makeup, my face gets really itchy, and then I'm one of those, like, I forget and I rub everywhere.
I'm still doing that too since I brought it back. I'm like, I'll be at work and I'll just start rubbing my eye, and I'm like, oh.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, like, even now I'll still do it, but like I wear glasses. So right now I have contacts in, right? Because I don't like the way the glare looks on my glasses. But like my contacts are the only reminder, like, not to rub my eyes when I wear the makeup.
That's so funny. Yeah. And then you find your routine. I think too, what people try to do, or moms try to do, is they try to take their pre-mom routine and
Yes.
fit it into their current situation.
Yes.
Well, I had 3 kids in 2 years. So very quickly, my routine
Yeah.
had to change.
Right.
And because I couldn't fit that big routine into my life with my kids, I just completely dropped it.
Right. It was like all or nothing. You made the all or
Yes.
nothing choice when you didn't
Yeah.
realize that you could have, kept a couple of those things, maybe not
Yeah.
all of them, but you could have kept some of them, right? And I agree with you. I think a lot of people have these, no kid routines, and they don't realize how much kids really do monopolize your time, and you don't get 15 minutes alone in the bathroom to wash your face anymore.
Like, just as David alone, it's like you get emotional. Like, no, I don't. And anytime the kids leave me alone, the dog comes in, and I'm like,
Right.
this was my moment, and you ruined it. I'm the one that feeds you.
Right. Give me some time.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so funny. That's good.
All right. Do you have any final parting words for my viewers?
I think my final parting words would be, try something for 30 days and do what works for you. If you put on a mask and you think that you couldn't do that every day for 30 days, don't. Right? If it's like, it could honestly even be walking around the block. It could be, sitting outside for 10 minutes. It could be simple, something really simple that you don't need time to do.
Right.
I mean, it could even download one of those apps where you could like meditate for a little bit.
Yeah, I want to do that.
Yeah, and then just try it for 30 days. It takes 21 days, honestly, for your body to make that change and for a new habit to stick anyway. So once you hit day 30, it's going to be second nature to you that you'll just continue to do it. And I think people tend to overcomplicate things because,
100%.
complication is sexy. People think that if you have all these bells and whistles, that's what you have to have, and they forget that you need to keep it simple.
Yeah.
And so I think my advice is find something very easy for you to do and do it for 30 days and see how you feel. Once those 30 days are over, I guarantee by day like 3, you're going to feel like a new person.
Yes, awesome. That's great advice. That made me think of this morning, actually. I was watching this video. I don't even know where I stumbled upon it, Facebook or something. And it was talking about how if you like lay on the floor with your legs against the wall for 20 minutes a day, it helps your circulation, it helps your digestion, it gets brain flowing up to your brain. And I was like, what's 20 minutes a day to put their feet on the wall? Well, I was like, my kids were all occupied. They were almost ready for the day. So I was like, I'm going to try this. So I went in my room and I did it. I got in like 10 minutes before the first mom. I'm like, you know what? At least, first of all, I'm short. So maybe I don't need a full 20 minutes.
Right.
And even if more blood flow got like to my thigh, it's better than nothing.
Exactly.
So
at least you got the 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
You could have had 0.
Exactly, yeah. So I like that because it's like wherever you can fit in like the smallest thing. And you know what? It did. It helped me this morning. Yeah, and it was something just like so random I stumbled upon.
Right.
Give it a try.
It's so easy, right? And you don't even need anything to do it. You just lay on the floor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Your back feels good. I was stretching my arms while I was down there.
Right. Oh, I bet just laying there, just doing nothing was relaxing. Right.
The little things, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to be sure to link your Instagram.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Yes. And I would love to do this again.
Absolutely.
I had a lot of fun. So
yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You have a good rest of your day.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
All right, guys. That was really cool and some really awesome information. And so go visit her Instagram and see what she's all about. She puts really great content, very similar to what she talked here about today. So see you next time. Bye.